Lovely Sue. I am beyond excited that you've come to chat with me and talk about the stuff that we're going to talk about because you are, well, you can introduce yourself in a second, but you are previously or were previously a Slimming World consultant, right?
Yes, I was. Yes.
Said with such a sigh.
Well, I have a classic line that I generally say, Terry, which is for my sins.
Oh, I like that. Nice little joke. Nice little in joke there.
Uh,
Tell
yeah.
us a little bit about yourself, Sue. Introduce yourself to our lovely audience, and you can tell us a bit about your story and how you came to be a consultant and all that sort of thing. You just tell us as much as you want to tell us about yourself.
Okay. So I am one of those ladies, and I'm sure lots of your ladies, and maybe yourself will be in the same situation where I've always been fat. I was fat as a child, and my mum was fat. And so when I was 11, my mum went to Weight Watchers because it first came over to England at that time. And she did really well. And so because she loved me, and this is really important because I do feel that sometimes our parents can get a lot of blame when we are fat and we sort of think, well, I'm only fat because I went on a diet in the first place. Well, when we start with the intuitive eating. But anyway, I have to stress, because she loved me, she didn't want me to go through all the stigma that we go through in society. So bless her heart, she took me off to Weight Watchers, and that's where my dieting life began. And of course, I managed to lose a little bit of puppy fat, and then eventually it came back. And then I dieted again. And then as I got older and I was in control of things, I tried every single diet going. And eventually went to Slimming World. Now, this is after years and years and years. I went probably twice or three times and rejoined because, as always, as we know, yes, we can all lose weight in the short term. That's not the issue. It's the keeping it off that counts. So I was one of those people that kept rejoining. But then there was one time, it was around about 2015, and I did actually manage to lose quite a chunk and was super excited and started to think, yeah, there is something in this. It's really good. And then I was asked to become a consultant. And it came at a really good time for me because I did need some extra cash. Well, don't we all always need a bit of extra cash? And I thought everything was great. Went on the training, became a consultant, and was really excited because all I wanted to do then, Terry, was what I want to do now, to help people to achieve whatever their goal is. And of course, at that time, I was dealing with people whose goal was to reduce their body size and their weight on the scales. So I was happy. I was really happy. I was doing what I wanted to do and helping people until I wasn't. And until I was taking people's money week after week and they were struggling and they were putting weight on and they were unhappy, and then they would stop coming, and then there'd be a lapse, and then they would come back and they would be heavier and they would be more miserable, feel more like a failure, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So around 2018, I started discovering intuitive eating. And then when the pandemic hit, I just sat on my laptop, basically. I'm sure you were probably the same. And we just sort of did everything, didn't we? We learnt, we read, we researched, and it just seemed so much like the right thing. So I'd already by this time decided I couldn't take people's money. Morally, it was wrong. And so I gave up being a Slimming World consultant. And here I am now, trying to help people to do what I've done, which is to leave the diet roller coaster behind and finally find freedom around food and my body.
So good, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it just?
It's so good. I mean, we are now doing what we know is right. Because like you say, we have researched, we have trained, we have looked at all these different things that play a part in eating behaviors and weight and health and things like that. So we know that this is good. We know it's good for us. We know it's not a flash in the pan. It's not a fad diet. It's not, well, see, I don't even consider Slimming World to be a fad diet. It is a diet and it is dressed up as a lifestyle. But at the time, so we know now that this is the right thing. What was it at Slimming World that made you believe that that was the best thing for you and your eating and your body? Do you know?
No, is the short answer. No, looking back, I think to myself, as a member, I didn't question the plan enough.
Yeah.
I just followed instructions. And those instructions told me pretty much what I could have, what I couldn't have, how much I could have. And that if that's how I ate, then I would lose weight. And that would fit in with my lifestyle because I could plan for everything in advance, and I could, there was so much food that I could eat, that it was going to be something, as you just said, a lifestyle change.
Did you, sorry.
No, you go, please.
I'm just thinking about this from before we get into the consultant side of things, I'm just thinking about it from a member's point of view.
Yeah.
I did exactly the same as that. I went, it was easy. I had a plan to follow. I knew what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, what I should and what I shouldn't eat, should and shouldn't. And I didn't question it until very late on, until things weren't working for me, until my weight started to plateau, that sort of thing. Do you think that's part of the attraction of it, is that it's just easy? And people think, well, I certainly did think that I can do this forever.
Without a doubt, you're 100%. Yeah. And obviously we can't speak for everyone, can we? But
no,
the biggest majority of people, Terry, that's exactly it. And from my point of view, as a member, I'd always dieted. I'd always either, well, I was a typical yo-yo dieter. I was either dieting and restricting, or I was not dieting and binging. And again, we could do a whole episode on binge eating, not necessarily binge eating as a disorder, but I would go literally from one side of the pendulum to the other. So my whole life was around people telling me what to eat and how much and when. And whenever I wasn't on a diet, therefore, I felt I was not in control because no one had ever taught me how to decide for myself. All they ever told me was, eat this, do this, drink this shake, whatever. And all I had to do was follow instructions. And I think that's the big appeal of Slimming World, because it is a set of instructions. You get a book, it gives you all the information, it tells you what you can eat, it tells you how much of it you can eat. And a lot of us have lost the ability. It's not that we never had it. It's just that when we haven't used it for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years in my case, in fact, it was over 50 years of dieting when I went to Slimming World that last time. And you have no idea how to do it for yourself. So when somebody comes along and says, here's a book, here's a lady who's going to tell you each week how well you're doing and all this, it's like all your dreams come true, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you just think, this is fabulous. This is what I want.
Yeah. And actually, it's, yes, you hit the nail on the head there, where every time I left, because I'm much like you, did it multiple times. Every time I left, it was like, it's fine, I'll just do this myself. I don't need to spend the money going to classes. I can do this just on my own.
Yeah.
And then I can't, because like you say, they don't teach you what you need.
No. And that's the biggest problem. They teach you to follow rules. And that's what most diets do. They teach you how to follow rules. They do not teach you how to use all the tools that you already have. They'll tell you they've got a toolkit. Oh, you can do this. No, your biggest toolkit is you.
Yeah.
Your brain, your gut, your instincts, your hormones that tell you that you're hungry or you're not hungry, all of those things nobody tells us about.
No.
And
No,
certainly
and
not
all
at
those
Slimming
things,
World.
yeah, all those things get pushed aside, don't they?
Mm,
Because we override them with
yeah,
the rules and the prescribed kind of plan of what you should eat every day.
yeah,
Even when you look
yeah.
at things like the amount of sins you can have and things like that, it's just a number, right?
Yeah,
Was there any logic behind the number? Actually, that's a good question, isn't it? Is there
yeah.
any logic behind the number of
Um,
sins you can have?
Sort of, yes. Basically, Slimming World would say that the plan is calorie controlled, but they take that into the equation. We don't have to worry about it.
Right.
So when I used to do those new member talks, we would go through, what was allowed to be eaten freely. They're free foods. And although I consider that I was quite a good Slimming World consultant, and I am just going to say that because I think that's something else that we don't do in this world. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit.
No,
And
agreed.
I was good, and lots and lots and lots of my members told me that. They had no reason to. So I think I was a good consultant. And when I sat down and told people, I would tell them the whole story. So, for instance, when you're telling people that they can eat as much of the free foods as they want, most people, most consultants would miss out the really important bit that, to be fair to Slimming World, was always there.
Right.
Until you are satisfied.
Oh.
As someone who has very often eaten past fullness, I, as a member, don't remember hearing that bit, Terry.
Neither do I, Sue.
Now, I can't honestly say whether it was said or whether my brain, as a person that was struggling with my weight, cut off at that point. Somebody has just said those magic words, you can eat as much as you like of these foods. Thank you very much. Sentence is finished. Don't need any more information. That's where the problem lies, because you can get good consultants and bad consultants. And you can also get reasons why information isn't passed on as well as it could be, or it isn't taken in as well as it could be.
Whichever of those reasons that it is, though, you've been failed because they either didn't say it, they either didn't include the until you are satisfied, or you didn't hear it, like you say, because you've just heard, go ahead, eat what you like. And when you've been through all this restriction and somebody finally says, just eat all the food, just eat all the food, it's fine. You do that. But also what it doesn't take into account is that as we've already said, all these cues, all these feelings in the body, they all get knocked aside through previous dieting. So to say to somebody who's spent years and years and years yo-yo dieting, eat until you are satisfied, isn't good enough anyway, because you don't know what it feels like to be satisfied. You don't know what it's like to be hungry and full at that stage. And there's no teaching there for that sort of thing.
No, and that is the problem. A lot of the time, there is a lot that is missed out. And to you and I now, Terry, we know they are the most important things. So it's not about saying to somebody, here's a meal plan. You're not helping them when you say, here is a meal plan.
No.
You're still keeping all the real information that they need away from them, the learning how to make decisions for themselves. And you know, I've been to other Slimming World groups. You know, I've been to before I became a consultant. I knew lots of consultants. We've all done it. We go to a particular group, we lose a certain amount, and then something happens, and we don't go back, and then we get too embarrassed to go back, so we go and search out another consultant. And that's another thing. You can't. It's like in our business now, Terry. In any business, in anything in life, no one person can be everyone's cup of tea.
No,
And
agreed.
it's the same with consultants. So the girl that I trained with was the complete opposite of me. But I can't criticize her because she got results. Now, this lady had lost a considerable amount of weight. And so her attitude was, and this is what we can't allow for when we do Slimming World groups, we all have a certain attitude. I don't mean that in a bad way, but we come at it from a certain perspective, don't we?
Yeah.
And this lady came from it absolutely from that perspective of, if I can do it, so can you. It's easy. All you have to do is follow the plan. Now, there were so many people that loved her for that, and they would all go to her group and she would get great success. But there would be an awful lot of people who would turn up, hear that, and think, oh, no, not for me, thank you. So they would disappear. Now, by the same token, there's a lot of people that would come to my group, Terry, and think, oh, she's just too nice. She just, she does care, but she's not being stoppy enough with me. She's not being firm enough with me, etc., etc. So again, you can't account for that, can you, when it comes to
we all learn in different ways.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
all are motivated in different ways. Some people are motivated by a very kind, caring, compassionate approach. Other people are motivated by a few good, strong words and a kick up the ass every, week or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Different horses for different courses. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. So again, it depends on how that information is then interpreted.
Yes.
But what the biggest thing that I struggled with then, and I still do, is the fact that it was all about the diet. And when it came to mindset, no.
Yeah,
that was, I mean, we can get into whatever you want to here, Terry, but, we can get into the plan, we can get into all the things that we think are wrong with the plan. But at the end of the day, it was advertised as being a plan. It was a lifestyle thing, but people knew that it was a diet and that there were going to be restrictions and rules. And so that's what they got.
Yeah.
I would like to say at this point that I have met Margaret, the founder. She is not a bad person. And this whole concept has come about from something that I may have done myself, which is a group of people meeting together at her house. Let's put £2 a week in and weigh each other and da. So it all came from a very good place. And I believe that she still believes in what she does. So looking at it from that point of view, I don't have an issue with Margaret or the plan in that regard. It's the fact that there is now a lot of research out there, Terry. You and I have done it. It didn't take us, we say we've done hours and hours, and we have. But if you've got a team of people working for you, like Slimming World, it's not going to take you hours and hours of research.
No.
And very little has changed over the years. And the biggest thing that hasn't changed is teaching people how to cope themselves rather than just following a set of rules.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is why I know we talked before we started recording that I want this to be a really balanced view. I absolutely do. I want people to know the truth about Slimming World and the intentions behind the consultants. I really do want that because, and I'm completely with you. I don't think that this was all born out of an attempt to damage everybody's health.
Certainly not, no.
I don't for a second even think that the consultants that are currently in those roles do now. So for the people listening to this that are consultants or are considering being consultants, I don't put any blame with them.
Totally, no,
because
absolutely
they're
not
in the position that you were going back some time. So I don't for a minute think that there's any ill harm meant in this at all. I've got so many questions. I've been scribbling as you've been talking.
Okay.
What should we start with? Right, let's start with the consultants then. Let's
Yeah.
start with, I know a big bugbear for us was that consultants don't have to have hit goal weight. That's right. Am I right
Yeah,
in
you're right.
saying that?
I think you're right.
So let's start by talking about goal weights. God, I've got so many questions. Let's start talking about goal weights. So when you start,
Yeah.
I'm assuming this is still the same. You are asked to come up with a goal weight that you want to achieve. And then so you write down this arbitrary number that you think is something you were once at when you were about 16 years old. And and totally unattainable now. Are consultants given any kind of guidance, information, or anything on how to help people set their goal weights, or when enough is enough in a goal weight? You know, when somebody's got to a point where it's obviously too much weight loss for them. Do you have any guidance on that as a consultant?
Yeah, to be fair, we did.
Okay.
So basically, there is a chart which everybody gets in their book
Right.
to help them to make the decision initially, and that's based on all your usual parameters that you get when you go to the GP, etc., etc. The idea of the member making it for themselves is because we didn't ever want to dictate to people what they, and again, I'm doing the quotations, should be at a certain height and what have you. And they were always interchangeable, always. You only had to say to your consultant, I want to change my target weight, and that was possible. And we would, if we thought that somebody was putting a goal weight in there that was unattainable, as you said, that was, you know, we would say, I always said to my members, why have you chosen that weight? I'm just interested, you know, it's a number. What does that number mean to you? And they would say, well, that's what I was when I got married. And then, yeah, because I don't know, as a consultant, I would then say, yeah, but no disrespect whatsoever, but you're not still that age. You've had 3 children. Do you really think that's possible? Shall we set it a little bit higher and then see how you feel when you get there? Again, do all consultants do that? I don't know. I really don't know.
The ones I went to certainly didn't.
No. And you see, that's the thing. There is no control. You can't allow for people's personalities. You really can't. So, yeah, some consultants will be brilliant. Others, no. The training that we got was to discuss it, though. In all fairness, yes, we were told you need to discuss this and tell people the things that might influence it.
Okay, that raises another question for me then. In what monitoring of consultants are there as time goes on, as the years go by? Because I never had those. And again, let me just say, the consultant that I had, well, I was with the one consultant mainly. She was lovely. She was really, really lovely. And I think she genuinely cared about people, but I never had those conversations with her. So where's the monitoring over time of the advice that you're giving to people and the knowledge that you have and things as a consultant?
Okay. So this is where it's like I am now so against slimming groups of all sorts. Slimming World gets it in the neck for me simply because I was a Slimming World consultant.
Yeah.
I'm just against it all. But actually, I can't blame Slimming World for so many things that they that people sort of think, oh my God, they don't do this, they don't do that, and they do this. Obviously, each week your figures would go up to head office, and they would include things like how many members you had, how many new members you'd had that week, what were the average losses, average gains, etc., and all of these things. And so if you had a group and you'd got a lot of members, but you were actually getting far more gains than you were losses, then you would be triggered, if you like. Your group would be triggered for a visit from your manager. And again, you would get good and bad managers. as you do in every job, don't you, really? Every business, everything. But the idea of then was that your manager, if they were really good, would say to you, do you know, it looks like you might be struggling a bit, Sue. Your numbers have gone down. I know you care about your members. I know this isn't what you want. So let's put a date in the diary when I can come and visit your group. And they would come along and they would sit in on your new member talk. They would check that you'd set the room up correctly and everything. And then they would sit in the group and take notes. And then you would get feedback from that. Which I thought is really good. I still do think that that is really good. But again, Terry, it all hangs on how good is the consultant, how good is the manager?
Yeah.
And does the consultant take it in, what the manager's saying? You know, and it was generally things like when a particular lady said she had this issue, you said, da, 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 might have been better to have said such and such, such and such, such and such. So again, they were trying to help both consultants and members. But
that's a difficult situation, isn't it? Because I remember those kind of visits from somebody at area or head office or wherever they were coming from. And I remember my consultant saying, right, next week, such and such is coming. So please all lose weight. Please be on your best behavior. Please ask me questions I can answer. That sort of thing. And it becomes this kind of fabricated setup there when everybody's on their best behavior. The consultant's on their best behavior. The members are shining examples. It's a fake situation.
Is it not exactly the same as Ofsted reports?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they know that they're coming, and so on that day, everything is as good as it can get. Basically, it gives not really a true idea of what's happening.
No.
And then the only other thing that I need to add here is that there was a lot of training at head office, but again, the training was never based on mindset, helping people to make their own decisions. It was all based on how to train. They trained us on their way of dealing with questions.
Right.
And it in their heads, I know that they felt this was, every trainer I had was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But I don't think anyone thought outside of the box, which is why an awful lot of people relate to Slimming World as being a cult. Because you are told things and very rarely is it questioned. So,
What does that training look like then? You know, if you're trained on how to answer questions and that sort of thing, can you give me some examples? What does it look like as a consultant to have that training?
So there would be, I don't know, 30, 40 of us sitting in a room up at head office. You would have somebody that was higher up, you know, an area manager who had previously been a consultant. And sometimes it was specific on, you know, do you know the plan, first of all, you know, and then they would go through and ask us questions. And then it would be, and, you know, if a member asks you this question, what would be the best way to answer it? And yeah, you would get different points of view. So that was always really good. But it was always related to just how to get those rules across to people in order to help the members. It's not going to help the members because the members are not going to stick to those rules.
Yeah, it becomes, it does. It becomes about rule setting and then abiding by them, doesn't it? I guess. So essentially, as a consultant, knowing the rules and then how you get your members to stick to them.
Yeah.
Are there targets? So you said the figures go up to head office of the losses and new members and things like that. Did you have targets to hit?
Not targets to hit as in any pressure put on you at all whatsoever.
Right.
Targets to hit as in if you were really struggling and they really didn't think you were going to make it as a consultant, for two reasons. well, more than 2 reasons, but initially you're not going to make it so you're not helping the members.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to make it, it's going to cost you money. You're not going to make enough money. Then they would come and be honest with you and sort of say, do you really think this is the role for you? Do you need some more training, etc., etc.? So we didn't have targets like that. But yes, the more people, there were always competitions to be entered. You know, you could become this consultant and that consultant, a silver or a gold or whatever. If I remember rightly, yes, your percentage earnings changed slightly over certain parameters.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Because ultimately it's an MLM, isn't it? It's multi-level marketing, I guess.
It is.
Because I'm
yeah.
assuming you earned off, if you recruited consultants, did you earn off them?
Do you know? I don't know. I don't think you do.
Oh, okay.
I think they're always asking you to try and recruit consultants.
Yeah,
but
I
no, I
being
don't.
asked.
I don't think there's a financial
No, right.
incentive to that.
Right.
But
you're certainly earning off your members, aren't you? And
yes, of course you are. That's
the more sales, the merrier.
And that's the problem, that it's like with everything. You do what you do because you enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you also need to be making some money at that. And with different consultants, there would be different balances, shall we say, in that equation.
Right. What is the money like? Let's if we're getting real, we'll get real. What's
rubbish?
Is it?
Yeah. That is the one thing when people say to me, "Oh, consultants only do it. You know, they don't care really. They only do it for the money." I'm like, if you knew how much we earned per hour that we put in, no, we don't just do it for the money. The money is a helpful extra, but no, it's not amazing. It really isn't. So basically, you share the cost of each week's membership on a percentage basis. I have no idea what it is at the moment. And then, yes, you get, I don't know, I can't remember now how it works. I think you bought the products that are for sale, you bought them in at a particular cost. And then when you sold them, that money was yours. So you were making a profit. But again, you know, you were told exactly how much you could charge for them. So there was only a set amount that you could get.
Yeah, because actually that was something I'd completely forgotten about, is the shop. The shop by the till.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's the setup is advised, is it, of how best to set up your...
Oh, you must notice that every single Slimming World group you go to, it's like a complete replica. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think that's a good half a day's training, how to set the room up.
Is it?
Yeah. And
See,
it's
they
not
think
all
about
bad.
that bit of the mindset, don't they?
Yes. And to be fair, it's not all bad, because they, you know, like how whichever room you're in, the chairs are always set up in a horseshoe. I remember that.
Yes.
In a horseshoe, said to me so many times. But in all fairness, it was done that way so that nobody felt on the outside. Everyone felt included.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. But yeah, a lot of the other stuff was to entice people to buy or to go in the raffle or whatever, Slimmer of the Week, etc., etc.
Oh, the raffle. I remember the raffle. Paid for the tea and coffee, and then you won something like some Tupperware or a lunchbox. Or...
Yeah, because again, that was down to the consultant's discretion. So you would have some consultants who would spend £2 on the raffle. And you would have other consultants who would spend a lot. Now, the ground rules were that you only, you know, you balanced it so that what you got in from the raffle was what you used to buy the teas and coffees, yes, and the raffle prizes. No way of controlling that. So again, you would get good consultants and bad consultants.
I don't think ours did that. I don't think ours was well balanced.
No.
I mean, we had some really nice raffle prizes, but I don't think it was that balanced in, money out.
No. No. And I'm, I've been a member and a consultant, so I've been in the shoes of people that are paying their money in order to get help to lose weight, and I've also been at those consultant meetings, regional, national, whatever. So yeah, I've seen all sorts of different consultants in my time.
Yeah. Are there and this is a genuine question because I don't know, are there perks? Are there perks to being a consultant? So for example, there is a very famous shakes plan, shall we say, that offers big rewards for big sales. So there will be cars, there will be holidays, there will be all these incentives for their consultants to do well. Does Slimming World do anything like that?
No.
Well, that's at least good to know, because
Yeah,
that means
it is.
that the driving.
They do
right
lots
direction.
of competitions, but generally their competitions are for members. And
Yes.
members, when they win the big competitions nationally, they get the notoriety and the publicity and what have you. And we got things like, if your group was doing really well, then you would get invited to these competitions and things. So there was those things, but no, not specifically. If you hit this target, then you will get a car or anything like that.
I'm really pleased to hear that, because that's one of the things, it's one of the many things that I dislike about the shakes diets, is that on some of these plans, the consultants are so driven by the money that takes precedence over everything else. And it's really, really distasteful. I really don't like that. So that's good to hear. Let's talk about the plan. Oh, actually, no, let's just cover the one thing that I asked you about and then backtracked on. Consultants and goal weight. So you don't have to hit your goal weight to be a consultant.
No, but oh gosh, it sounds as though I'm constantly sort of standing up for them now.
No, we're doing this as a balanced conversation, Sue. That's the whole point.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks. It's you help them to try to your members to try to get to that goal weight. So as somebody who is then going to become a consultant, you have to be so far along your journey to be heading towards that goal weight, and and when you go for your training, you have to reassure them that you're heading there, and you have an idea of when you might hit that goal weight, sort of thing. So somebody who, for instance, had only just begun their journey and had many amounts of weight to lose would not be considered.
Right.
They would basically be told, it's brilliant that you want to be a consultant, however, maybe when you've been on the journey a bit longer, basically.
Right. Yeah, because that's what I quite vividly remember, was in the times where I was struggling. And let me also just caveat this by saying I really did like our consultant. I got on really well with her. I was part of the social team, me, Sue. So, obviously we were like this.
Oh, wow.
I know.
You were highly regarded.
I started on the old cash desk, and then I was actually on the weighing. So
oh, wow. Well done.
I was well trusted. I know. Why do we think of that as this thing? If you're on the social team, you must know the plan. You must be doing well at the plan. You must be a real support to members. I swear that is something that kept me there longer. The value that was placed on me as a member in that supporting team.
And that is exactly what they want. They tell us to look for people who will know about the plan and who will help others on the plan, etc., and who will feel that they are part of something. So yeah, and Slimming World groups could not run without a social team, who are all volunteers, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to hand it to consultants. there is no way that all of that could be covered by one person.
No,
for
no.
sure. So I get the value of the social team to the consultant. Absolutely. From a member's perspective, it kept me there. It really, I really believe that it kept me there. It kept me wanting to follow the plan, because of course, as you're sat there and you're weighing people and they doing what they're doing on the scales, and they say to you, how did you get on this week? And, if you're answering that question to 30, 40, 50 people, you don't want to be saying not so well every week, do you?
Yep.
So, it served a real purpose being on that team.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? Oh, so
we were talking about target weights and goal
Yes.
weights.
Yes.
And how you don't have to be at goal weight.
Yes. So I got on really, really well with our consultant. But I do remember sitting there thinking, she's not at goal weight anymore. And she had been. This was a big thing for me. She had been, and she was not anymore. And she was struggling to get back there. And she would openly say that she was going to another group. She was going to her local group, and she was following the plan, and she'd lost X amount of weight this week or gained X amount of weight. So the transparency was reassuring. But at the same time, I was like, oh, if you're struggling with this, how can I do it learning from you? It was very difficult for me.
Now, that is a real big one for me, because one of the reasons that I left was because I was doing exactly the same. I was putting on weight and I was going to another group, and I could not, and I was transparent with my members. And yes, head office would tell you that it's okay to do that, because at the end of the day, we all struggle. That's the whole point of the group.
Yeah.
And yes, there is part of me that agrees with that. But there is also that thing of do as I say, not what I do kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I know that other people were coming to me, generally when I wasn't struggling, and saying, I went to so-and-so's group the other day. I couldn't believe it. Her weight has increased, etc., etc. How can she stand there and tell other people what to do when she can't do it herself? So I can see it from all sides, Terry. I really can.
Yeah.
And that is a real, real difficult one. There are some people that will look at it and think, no, it can't work. Because if they can't do it and their whole livelihood depends on it, then how am I supposed to do it? But then there will be other people, and I've had it said to me, and when I told my members that that was one of the reasons I was leaving, it was like uproar. You can't leave for that. That's what keeps us coming. That's why you're such a good consultant. You empathize. You know what we're going through. There's no right or wrong there.
Yeah.
It's completely to do with how you are feeling as well in yourself at the time, and how that consultant is coming across. There are so many factors that affect that, but it is definitely something that used to come up frequently when I was a consultant. Yes.
What a lot of pressure for the consultant to be under as well. Thinking of this on a human level now, what a lot of pressure for one person to take, to stand in front of multiple groups a week, every week, being judged on their body, because that's exactly what I was doing when I was looking at her, thinking, well, you're not at goal. You haven't lost weight. You're gaining weight. It's very judgmental.
Now, that leads me on to something, Terry, that you brought up in one of your previous podcasts that really hit home with me, which is that the whole thing, and I didn't realize this until I got into intuitive eating. And again, even after all of the research that I've done, when I listened to your podcast, it really hit me, which is they give you the plan. They tell you that they're going to help you to lose weight. They do the body magic thing. And a lot of that, a lot of people didn't like the way it was, the body magic bit, but actually it was very much a case of, it's not about going to an exercise class. You don't have to join the gym, stick the radio on and dance to the music, go out to the park and play with the kids. So I have no problem with that. But there was no body image. They would call it body image. It's not body image. It's not about accepting your body as it is. It's all about losing.
Yeah.
All
And it's
about that.
conflicting. That link, I always find very difficult. That link between the plan and exercising was very, very difficult, because on the one, if you were doing well and you were doing all this body magic and you were getting the certificates, let's not forget the certificates. If you're getting
Absolutely.
all the certificates for all this new movement that you're doing, which actually people have just written a list and gone, I'll have a certificate, please.
Yeah.
But you do all of this, and while you're losing weight, it's like, see, brilliant, this body magic works, it's excellent. Look how this works in conjunction with the plan. However, if you start exercising because you think, right, I'm in a place now where I can do this body magic, and then you gain some weight, it's because you're exercising.
Totally.
Where's the logic?
But you see, there are a lot of things that, now again, put yourself in the situation of a consultant.
Yeah.
You've got 40 members sitting in front of you. And that's another thing. You could have 60, 100 members in your group, but you may only have 10 that stayed for image therapy. So
yes.
It's like you're preaching to the converted, because all the people that have left are all the people that are struggling. And I think this is when a good consultant comes into their own, and a not so good consultant sees it as a money owner. My phone was constantly on, and I was that consultant that would phone people, would drop them a text, whatever, to say, I hope you're okay this week. I see that this happened, whatever. I'm here for you. Can I help in any way? However, some people wouldn't. They'd just preach to the 10. The 10 that didn't need preaching to, because the fact that they were there meant that they were sold on it, finish early and go home. I would do image therapy to maybe 30 people. And when you've got 30 people all saying to you, well, I went to the gym and that's why I've not lost weight this week. And somebody else says, yeah, I find the same. I'm fine as long as I don't exercise. But the minute I exercise, I go to the gym. What are you going to say, Terry?
Yeah.
Because they're not listening.
No.
they don't want to know the facts and figures. And that's the other thing I learned. Actually, at some point, and this is really taking us on to something else now, but a lot of the time people do not go to Slimming World to seriously lose weight.
No.
They think they do. And they set off doing that. After a few weeks, it's an hour away from the kids. It's a chat to all their friends.
Yeah.
It's the community spirit, if you like. And it's a way to exaggerate lots and lots of excuses and pick up more of these things. You know, haven't been to the toilet this week. That's why I've gained 5 pounds. Really? Come on. You know, this is why you get people who, once they've been to a group, you know, various times, I don't mean visits, I mean rejoins, and they get the hang of it and they learn what everyone else is doing. It's like kids at school. Honestly and truthfully, it's like kids at school. So you hear the whispers, new member, keep your shoes on. First week, weigh in your jeans. Make sure you've got your phone in your pocket, change, a big heavy necklace. On you get. Week 2, come in the flimsiest dress you've got. Guaranteed a weight loss.
Vest and shorts.
Really? A weight loss? A fat loss?
Yeah.
A change in body? Or simply a change in what you wore and took with you? But they don't care, because they're now in that mentality that it's all about the competition and it's all about losing.
Yeah.
And they will do anything to try to do that. And if they don't lose, in order to not feel like a failure, because this is what diets do to us, isn't it? Makes us feel we are wrong, we are stupid, we've got no willpower, we didn't do it right, so we failed. And because they don't want to do that, they have to have this catalogue of excuses in their toolkit. And I don't blame members for that, because I've been there. And I've tried to think of excuses of why I haven't lost weight. And of course, the other big thing here is there are lots of reasons why the scales will show a different weight other than how much fat you've lost.
Yeah.
And going by that, you know, I've told people before, oh, look, you've lost half a pound, and they're over the moon. Well, they haven't lost half a pound of fat at all. It's just to do with where their body is at that moment in time.
Yeah.
You know, I can weigh myself on a daily basis and an hourly basis, and that weight will change constantly. It's not a change over a long term, though.
No.
And
No.
so, you know, it doesn't really mean what it means, except that if you tell somebody that they've lost half a pound, and this is where the psychology comes into it, if that person was expecting to have put weight on because they'd been bad and not stuck to plan, and then you tell them that they'd lost half a pound, they're over the moon.
Yeah.
For someone who has stuck to plan all week and been good, tell them they've lost half a pound and they'll be devastated.
Yeah.
So how can it be the number on a scale that's important? Because that's the same amount, it's the same result, and it's completely looked at differently by those two people.
And the guilt is horrible, isn't it? Because, like you say, you do I worked so hard this week. And then in your head, you go, what did I not do good enough?
Yeah.
That meant I only lost X amount of weight. Or the question was always, what happened this week?
Yeah.
Like it was something I did, my fault, my not trying hard enough, my deviating away from the plan, you know. And then the response was always, right, we'll just back on it then, 100% next week.
Yeah.
Like that's going to fix any natural body fluctuations.
Yeah. And the fact as well that, again, it's this mindset thing that they don't go into, because going back to that half a pound, if somebody has really struggled and then they find that they've lost half a pound, they're going to be ecstatic. Yeah. And again, you can have two people in that same category. One person will look at it and think, oh my God, I lost half a pound. I can go to the chip shop now.
Yes.
I hear it. I heard it all the time as people were walking out of the door. I had a loss this week, so I can celebrate by having whatever.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You will get another person who is really pleased that they've lost that half a pound, exactly the same, but says, so all I have to do is stay on it now. So they've seen the positive side of it. So there's two different results.
I was always the first person. I was always the person that weighed themselves on a Tuesday and then was like, great, I'm going to have a day off.
Yeah.
And now, Tuesday, weigh-in's done. Let's have a cheat day and then back to it tomorrow. Well, you shouldn't have a cheat day from a natural way of eating.
No. And who are you cheating?
Yeah,
You know, the consultant doesn't care whether you have a cheat day or not. And that's nothing to do with being a caring or a not caring consultant. It's just that that's not how it works. If you have a cheat day, you are cheating yourself. However, the fact that you're all in a group together, and if you say, oh, I had a cheat day, there will always be somebody who will back you up. And that's where the whole context of being in a group comes in. It can be very good when it's good, and it can be absolutely awful when it isn't.
Yeah. Group settings, the research behind group settings echoes just that. It's that it will big you up and encourage you when it's good, and it can be very negative and demotivate you when it's not good, and it depends on your mindset and where you are in that space in time. Group settings are dressed up as, if I remember rightly, are dressed up as one of the big things. Stay to group, because if you stay to group, you get the benefit of group. But actually, sometimes, like you say, I would walk away thinking, God, I'm depressed now. Now I feel rubbish about myself, and everybody else has done so much better than me. And
have you ever sat in a group when you've really, really worked hard that particular week, and you've had like not the result that you were wanting, not as much as you wanted, and then somebody else says, the consultant will say, oh, well done, Terry, loss of 2 pounds this week. What do we do to do that then? I don't know. I'm absolutely flabbergasted. I've had a Chinese takeaway. I've been out and got drunk. I went to a birthday party. I don't know why. And you are that person sitting there that has stuck to plan the whole week, and you had a gain or whatever. So yes, that group setting can be brilliant, but that group setting can also be dreadful.
We had a lady in our group who it was genuinely a standing joke every week that every weekend she would have a bottle of vodka, and the amount of weight she lost was phenomenal. You can't link the two, but she was blatantly, obviously saying, I do it through the week and then I don't give a damn at the weekend. And it just goes to show that the one plan cannot work for every person.
Absolutely.
Because your body reacts differently to different types of food and drink, different levels of exercise, whatever.
And again, in a group situation, there is always there's only so much that you can give to your members and expect of them. So, that's what one of the trainings, that's the sort of thing that would get brought up in training. What do you do when you know that this previous person is devastated because they have stuck to plan, but they haven't lost any weight? And then somebody comes up and says, oh yeah, I don't know what I've done. I had a Chinese, etc., etc. Now, you can only say a couple of times to somebody, that's really good for you, but please bear in mind that not everybody is feeling great this week. So if you could just not share those sorts of things.
Yeah.
You're not their teacher, you're not their parent, you're not their boss.
No.
There's only so many, members will be members, Terry, always.
Yeah.
They will be individuals. And 9 times out of 10, they are either as happy as anything and prepared to tell you anything that's happened that week, or they are devastated and they're going to be defensive. And that's the problem. And if you say something that you think may help them, they'll always see it as a challenge. You're challenging them. And if like me, I'm not into challenging people at all. So that didn't sit with me. I know there are times when people have walked out that door thinking, I hate her. Who does she think she is? And I would feel the same though, Terry, if if I'd gone to a group and someone had said that to me, because even though you're only trying to help, you're not in the frame of mind on that evening to be helped by that comment. And we don't have the time and we don't have the privacy to sit down with them. So
you don't have the one-on-one connection. You don't even have small groups. So so I do one-on-one coaching. It is so powerful because you can have that one-on-one, what's going on, and talk about things on a very personal level. But even my membership is a very nice small group of people, and I feel like even that is way more personalized than the Slimming World group. And these big groups can't be personal. They can't be by the nature of them.
No, exactly right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's talk about the actual plan then.
Right.
I don't know how long you've got, Sue. We've
I've got forever, but your members and your ladies are going to go, will you get this woman off? She just goes on and on.
No, nonsense. They can listen in 2 sittings.
Bless you. That's what we'll do. We'll do it in 2 parts.
Let's talk about the plan.
Where do you want to start?
Okay, let's start with, as a consultant, what kind of nutritional training do you have?
None.
Oh, none at all. Great.
None.
Right. So what are you taught then about the plan as a consultant? What are you, how is it put to you? How are the benefits if it's sold? Why is this something good that people should do?
Okay. You have absolutely no nutritional training. I do have a background in nutrition, so I was probably better off than a lot of people. I also had qualifications in physical exercise. So there was a lot that I knew that other people wouldn't know. But no, you don't need it. So the plan is sold to us on the fact that it's, like I say, calorie controlled, but they have worked out that if people stick to this regime and eat free foods and it's quite highly, if you ask most Slimming World members the plan, you'll get their version of the plan, which is another big bugbear, because everybody sees it the way they want to see it. Like I said to you before, we can tell them all sorts, but what they hear won't necessarily be what we have said. And even if they hear it, they may take it in differently. So basically, the plan is that the idea of it is that they want people to eat a balanced diet that fits in with most people's budgets and most people's lifestyles. And it doesn't matter whether you are a meat eater, whether you're vegan, etc., you will still be able to eat all of these foods.
Yeah.
And so if you do everything that Slimming World says, then I can see in a way how they think they're controlling calories. So an ideal meal for somebody on Slimming World will contain free food, speed foods, a third of a plate of speed foods, and be made up of, ideally, protein and carbs. Not everybody knows what proteins and carbs are, though, Terry. No. And we don't have time to teach that particular category. And people who don't like vegetables, for instance, will fill their plate with more carbohydrates. So Slimming World base their plan on, let's just say, for instance, you're going to have 2 Weetabix for breakfast with a certain amount of semi-skimmed milk. And then for lunch, you're going to have a piece of chicken, that's your protein, and some pasta or potatoes, and then a third of a plate of free foods. That will contain an average amount of calories. You and I both know that. There is an average.
Yeah.
And when you put your calories into a calorie checking app, that's only true to about 25-30%, isn't it? Anyway, so so we know we can do that. And then they'll have for an evening meal, or 4 small meals. They don't dictate. And then your snacks, which are where your high calorie foods are going to come in. But most people, and that's where your sins come into it. And sins are based roughly on 1 sin per 20 calories.
Oh, yes, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Head office will work out the sins more accurately on a lot of foods. But if if there's a new chocolate bar that comes out and the head office haven't gotten around to it yet, then your consultant would tell you, if you class it as that, you won't go too far wrong. So you're allowed as much of this free food, a third of speed, your sins, and then your healthy extras. The healthy extras are there to make sure that people are getting their vitamins and minerals. But people don't do that, do they? People get fed up of eating. And that's the other thing. People suddenly find themselves eating the same breakfast, lunch, and dinner every night. Now, for some people, that's absolutely fine. I know people that do that anyway, even when they're not on a plan or a diet. But a lot of people get fed up and then start tweaks.
Oh, the tweaks. Oh, the tweaks.
Don't you just love it?
I can't tell you what I used to do.
Oh my God, the things we ate.
Yeah.
Which, again, in all fairness, head office would tell you you have to clamp down on. You can't have these tweaks. That's not the point of them. The point of sins, etc., is to limit the amount of things that you eat. So the fact that you're changing it into something else doesn't make any difference whatsoever. You're not allowed to have it. As you and I know, if you do not restrict anything, you don't need to tweak anything either. If you want some cake, you can have cake. You don't have to make cake out of cauliflower rice.
Oh
whatever.
my God, the cauliflower rice. So, I tried to make a pizza base out of cauliflower once.
Been there, done that, yeah. So basically, that's how they worked out the plan. But of course, then by the time people have tweaked it, or they're not having any vegetables whatsoever, so therefore they're having more pasta, let's say, then their calories have automatically gone up, haven't they?
Yeah.
So yes, the plan works if you stick to the plan. And that's what a lot of consultants would say to you: just stick to the plan works. And yes, it does, but it is actually quite restrictive. You know, they say it isn't restrictive at all. You can eat anything, but you can't. You really can't. You know that yourself if you've been a member. You know, there's always that thing of you get up in the morning, you don't know what you want to eat, so you eat 2 Weetabix. Then you're out and about at lunchtime and you didn't expect to be, but you can't have a sandwich now.
Yeah.
And if you do have a sandwich, you have to sin the bread.
Yeah.
What utter nonsense that is. It's utter nonsense.
It is, when we now know, you and I know very well, and I'm hoping that people who listen to this now know, that there's so much good in such a lot of this food. So to put restrictions on things is really hindering your ability to have this really nice big range of nutrients in your diet. You know, if you're having, say, Weetabix for breakfast and then not having bread for lunch, there could have been extra fiber there that you're taking on, which we know is really good for digestion, really good for your gut health, that sort of thing. If you are not if you're not having that ideal split of what goes on your plate, or you are just sticking to, like you say, those safe foods, having just the same meals all the time because you know they're safe, you know you've got the best results on the scales from those meals, then you're automatically not having a wider range of foods, which would give you a wider range of nutrients.
Exactly.
When you start putting sins on
I know
fruit and veg, avocado, that's where I'm going.
Avocado gate and Muller gate. Let's go there.
My God, avocado is so good. There's so many nutrients in it. There's so many healthy fats in it. It's so good for you. Don't touch it on Slimming World, though.
Exactly. Yeah.
Look at the things you're excluding when you're on a plan like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I would get members constantly coming to me with that one in particular, avocados, always. And then, of course, the amount of people that said, have Slimming World got shares in Muller Lite?
Yes.
I have no idea. That's not something I want to waste my time researching, if I'm honest. But yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah. 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 And things like cheese. You can have a matchbox size portion of cheese. Let me have some cheese. It's got calcium in it and all these lovely minerals and stuff that are really good for me.
And where in that is eat until you are satisfied.
Yes.
Because 1 minute you're telling people they can eat. So then you're basically saying, well, you can have some more potatoes. I don't want any more potatoes, thank you. I just want a little bit more cheese. And actually, I will feel far more full and satisfied, and it will last me a lot longer because cheese has protein and fat in it. And we know that that's what's going to keep us full. If I have just a tiny little amount of cheese and some potatoes, I'm going to be starving again.
Yeah.
And then I need to use all my sins on a snack that I wouldn't have needed if I could have just opened the fridge, decided what I fancied, decided what would be good, what do I feel like eating? Do I want hot, cold? Do I want spicy, blander? Do I want all of those things that we do, and we open the fridge, which are, I don't know about you, Terry, but now it's automatic, isn't it? You know, when I first started with intuitive eating, that was a definite thing. Open the fridge.
Yeah.
Like she's got one of those big American fridges.
That's right, yeah.
Honestly, if you could, I mean, now people that are listening to this podcast, open the fridge, and I would ask myself all of those questions. How hungry am I? What do I feel like eating? What will satisfy me? What can I afford? What's here now? What's available to me? Now, that's just automatic.
Yeah.
Like getting up and brushing your teeth.
Yes.
You don't have to think about that, do you? And I just go to the fridge, and all of my senses take me to what it is that's right for me. Because I learned that.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I got back in touch with my body. It wasn't that it didn't ever know. It did know when it was born. And then society and everything else, as we know, all kind of took over. And that's what people need to be able to find food freedom. Not being told you can eat this and you can't eat that. And no one meal is bad for you. And no one day is bad for you.
Yeah.
We have to take everything over a whole spectrum,
and it just encourages when you're so limited to the amount of each food you can have. You're so limited, so restricted, that it encourages eating behaviors that are not healthy eating behaviors. I can't tell you how many times I would be weighing out this bit of cheese that I would really love, because I love cheese, and while I was weighing it, I just cut a slither off, and that would go in my mouth while I was weighing.
Absolutely.
Or I would be very specific about if it was weighing something that was grains, for example, or mashed potato or something like that. And I would weigh it, and I would weigh it to the amount that I'd allocated for my sins. And then it would just tip over into the next gram. So I'd take that tiny bit off. And then you go, well, what difference does 1 more gram of potato make? You shouldn't be thinking like that to that degree about food.
No, absolutely not. And that, again, shall we book another 6 or 7 sessions in, actually, Terry? Because we haven't even begun on how much disordered eating Slimming World is responsible for. Disordered eating, even as far as eating disorders, binge eating, because I know from when people have rejoined that they lost a certain amount of weight because whatever Slimming World says, when you are on that plan, you are restricting. So they restricted, whether it's mental restriction, physical restriction, weighing something and needing more of it, like you say, but they have restricted. So the second they fall off the wagon, they binge. Where's Slimming World then? They just want you back as a member. They do not want to solve that problem of why you started to binge. They just say to you, come back, you're very welcome. Welcome to what? To do the same thing over and over again and get the same result. Somebody out there once said that's the first sign of insanity.
Yes.
They're going to do the same thing. I did it. Terry, it sounds like you did it. We did the same thing over and over again and expected a different result. So when I get people that come to me now that say, but Sue, I'd love to do intuitive eating, but A, I need to be healthy, and B, I need to lose weight. One of the first places that I always start, and I don't know how you work, Terry, but it's, let's just see how many times you've tried this before. Just grab a piece of paper for me. We're going to leave it there for a while, and then we'll talk about it later. But in between times, could you write down for me the amount of different diets that you've been on and what the result was, and then how long it lasted? And just write a list. Terry, I did this for 50 years. Can you imagine how many foolscap sheets I filled in? And still, it never, ever made me stop. I would still think this one's going to work. This time it's going to work. And we know, you and I, that it won't. No. It absolutely won't. But Slimming World do just see somebody that's been before as a member that can come back.
Do you know what the rejoin rate is? Do you know what percentage is?
I don't, but I would love to. I would love to know. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know how many times I walk back through those doors.
No.
Over and over and over again. I've no idea.
No, it's got to be quite horrendous.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Shall we do a second session, Sue? Shall we do another one and talk about?
I'd love to.
Let's
I
do
would
that.
absolutely love to.
Let's do that, because I'm aware that, I mean, I could talk to you about this forever, obviously. But I think we've been prattling on for like an hour and a quarter now.
No.
Yes.
Oh my word.
I know.
Ooh.
So we haven't even really touched on the food and the crazy rules, like let's go with the, chewing a banana and things like that.
Yep.
Mashing a banana, rather, should I say.
Yep.
Shall we do a second session and we'll look at the actual silly little things in the plan and the
I'd love
eating
to do
behavior
that.
side of it?
Yeah.
I would love that too.
Yeah.
We'll book a second one in.
Brilliant.
Let's finish this here then.
Yeah.
Oh, just so much to talk about, haven't we? Let's finish this one here and we'll do a second one for the actual plan and the food and the eating behaviors and stuff. How's that sound?
Fabulous. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Right. Before I stop recording then, let's tell everybody where they can find you. So you are obviously singing from the same hymn sheet as the rest of us. So let's give people your accounts to put something extra in their toolbox.
Okay. So I go under the name of Diets Get Stuffed.
Love that.
Do you know, when I first thought of it, I loved it. Then, when you start to think, will everybody see it the same way as I do? And then I panicked. And so far, no one has said anything bad. And 99% of people just go, oh, I love that. I love that. But it's just how I felt at the time when I decided that I wanted to help people. So, so Diets Get Stuffed is my website. And I'll drop all these links with you at some point if you would like to put them in your show notes.
I, of course, will put them in the show notes.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook on Diets Get Stuffed. And I do have a link in my bio in Instagram. I'm not sure if it's in Facebook, but certainly in Instagram. And you can also get there on the website for a freebie with some tips to begin in intuitive eating.
Fabulous.
And also to get on my email. I'm a bit of a nutcase, so I do send some weird emails. Most people
we all love a little bit of crazy though, don't we?
Yeah, hopefully people will.
I'm going to put,
you can always unsubscribe.
Well, there is that, isn't there? Subscribe. This is what everybody needs to do. Subscribe, and then if it's not to your taste, you can unsubscribe.
And that is exactly
you might just
what
find
I
something that's brilliant.
People to do. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
excellent. Sue, thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you, Terry. It's been amazing.
It's been such a good amazing. Chat. We could just talk for hours, couldn't we, us two?
Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll watch this space for part 2 then.
Okay.
Right. Lovely to speak to you, Sue.
Take care.
See you, love.
Bye.